Good Friday afternoon or evening. We're back.
Hey.
We're back. After
We're
one
back.
week off. Have you arrived back yet from Valencia?
Let me check. Yeah, I'm home.
Yeah, you're home.
Luke's
Okay.
home.
Okay, good. Hi, by the way, if you don't know who we are, my name is Darren Pope. This over here is Victor Farsick, and we are the host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. And on Fridays, most Fridays, unlike last week, we're here talking about the news of the week and other things that might have happened. And again, the reason why we weren't here last week is because Victor was, how can I say it politely, recovering from KubeCon, or you were still actively in KubeCon?
I'm still not sure. Yes, I was recovering. Took me, to be honest, it took me like 2 days of being in a coma-like state. But now I'm back.
That was the longest time you've been in a hotel in how long?
In
A couple of years? Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of years, exactly.
Probably since when we were last together in Vegas in 2020.
Yes, correct. That's the first time since Vegas 2020. Yeah, you remember well, yeah.
Yeah. When we were still working at the same place. Dolphy, good to see you. Karen, good to see you as well. Thanks for being here with us live today. Not a whole lot of news out of KubeCon. It was pretty
eventful.
Non-eventful.
Yeah.
Except there were, 7,000 plus people there. That was the event part of it.
7,000 plus people, and probably like 20% of them were vendors. So everybody was there, or almost everybody.
Oh, man. I'm glad I didn't go.
It was fun.
I'm sure.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Saw lots of people.
Yeah. Now it depends whether being in presence of people is your definition of fun or not. That's a different thing. Different question. No, not really.
I like people, but I also like...
On television.
At a distance. At a distance. I'm cleaning off the top of my can, getting ready to drink. Because this very first... Actually, the first piece of news, once we get to it, is drink-worthy. But I'm still opening it a bit early. Let's go ahead and get into the podcast this week. I'm new to CI/CD. How many times do we get that question? Where do I start? Many times. Wait, hold your thought for a second. Ingen, you're here. You weren't here last week or the week before last, and we called you out. Congratulations on your preliminary award. That's very cool. It's very, very cool. But I'm new to CI/CD, and we're going to be talking about this more and more throughout the year. And it's just not CI/CD, but I'm new to where do I start? Isn't that life?
Yeah, I mean, because new people are born every year, so that means that there is constant influx of new people. Where do I start? That's how nature works. And there is also a constant old geezers are out as well. So,
yeah, that's the funny thing. Okay, so you say old geezers. I'm one of those, or I'm starting to get into that bucket. And I'm seeing more and more people that are my age or just a little bit older. It's like on LinkedIn. It's like, what's that typical thing where LinkedIn has that big joy, happy thing that happens, and it's like announcing that they're moving on to the next position. And I'm seeing a lot more of, I'm moving on to retirement. And I'm seeing
Finally.
a lot of that. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of that. I wish I could do that, but I can't do it yet. Oh, but anyway, we just go back and forth on, where to think about it. And I think the boil down point is don't start with pipelines. Start with understanding what it is you're trying to do, which applies to, I'm new to fill in the blank. Where do I start? Figure out the basics.
shell scripts.
Well, yeah. But actually, we're going to look at that a little bit later today of how you can even simplify that.
Okay.
Not specifically shell scripts, but in general. Okay. So that was the podcast this week. Podcast comes out on Wednesdays at 6 a.m. Eastern, noon CET. And I have to admit, I'll go ahead and pull back the curtain a little bit. we're not fully recorded yet, but by the end of June, we'll be fully recorded through middle of September. I shouldn't be saying that out loud, but now that doesn't mean I'm edited and done, but having things fully recorded means there's a small chance I might actually get to take a week off in July. There was a point, at some point this week, Monday, in fact, Monday it was. Monday, there was nothing in the queue. I had processed everything. So I had one day this week to where there wasn't something in backlog waiting for me to do it. Guess what I did? I started a new open source project. I'll talk about that a little bit later.
You'll talk about it later. Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk about it. I mean, if we have time, we'll talk about it. So, Stefan, good to see you. Fully recorded. What is it? Or fully scheduled. Meaning, by the end of June, we'll have recorded everything that will be be published through the middle of September. So,
so we have a few months of material.
Because what I'm really trying to do, all joking aside, I'm trying to get to the point to where we're not having to do any recording during the month that you Europeans call August. Or excuse me, what the rest of the world calls August, that everybody in Europe calls, what do you call it? Holiday. You call it holiday, and you just take off for 4 to 6 weeks, right? And so I'm trying to make it this year to where he being Victor doesn't have to do anything from the podcast side of things. We'll still try to do these, but come on. Do you know if the KubeCon sessions are?
So all the sessions that were happening in the venue, they were live. Some sessions were recorded in advance in case speakers could not come to Valencia. And that was my case. I mean, I could come to Valencia, but the guy with whom I was doing the session, he's in China, he couldn't come. So my session with him was recorded. But whomever was arrived to Valencia did the live talk.
Okay. Which is what's happening when it's easy to get somewhere, like in a conference I'll probably be going to in September. I'm going to drive down for it. I'm still not getting on an airplane. I could, but Florida's only 8 hours away. I know this sounds very strange to anybody in Europe, but an 8-hour drive is nothing. But that's me. Sebastian, happy Friday to you. Let's get into the news. There was this small acquisition this week.
Acquisition or? Okay, not yet acquisition, but
yeah, well,
announcement
the announcement of the acquisition. Broadcom, a hardware manufacturer, really a chip manufacturer, the way I call it, acquiring VMware. Now, I will say about VMware, they're like the red-headed stepchild. They have been bounced from place to place. Well, actually, inside of VMware, Spring Framework, Spring.io, which their conference was this week as well over in Europe. They have been bounced from vendor to vendor to vendor.
Yeah, nobody can follow the path
that Spring has taken.
VMware took the last 10 years.
Yeah. Because VMware, going back to VMware, they were owned by Dell, like Dell Computers. If you were to scroll down through this press release, now this is the official one from Broadcom. This same press release was over on. Okay, I'm gonna yell about this for a second. Hang on. So this is the press release, the joint press release by both Broadcom and VMware, or it's the same press release. On Broadcom, guess what? It's a nice HTML page. Do you know how it was published over on VMware?
No.
PDF. Now, there may have been a page somewhere for it, and I just didn't bother finding it, because when I search for it, the first thing that shows up is the PDF. Broadcom has stupid money.
Yeah.
Just like any of the other ones that have com in their last part of their name. Any of the chip manufacturers have stupid money.
Exactly.
Now, you could go through and read up.
Having trouble with materials and not producing sufficient number of chips probably increased that amount of money. big demand, not enough chips to float around, jack the prices. It's a good
Even
deal.
more money. Yeah. So I enjoy reading these things because I enjoy the business side of how all of this stuff works. Now you can go through and read it and blah, 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 blah. But where I get interested is this part, transaction details and path to completion. Now remember, this is roughly a 61 billion. For our math today, we're going to use 60 billion just because the math is easier. So remember we talked about VMware being owned by Dell?
Depends. When you say Dell, do you talk about the company or the person?
Well, it was
because Dell, the person, owns it no matter where it goes, right?
Michael Dell owns 40% of VMware stock.
Yeah.
So boys and girls, let's break out some basic math here. 40% of 60 billion, round numbers, is $25 billion. Hey, Michael, when I come to Austin next, you're taking me to Stubbs and we're having barbecue.
Effectively, Michael Dell controls VMware. Basically, if this is happening and it is happening, that's because he wanted this to happen personally.
Even though VMware was out on its own by itself, but holding 40% of it, yes.
Yeah, that means that 40% is sufficient to say he controls it.
Yeah. So I don't know if congratulations are in order for VMware. I think it's actually a smart thing. I like this buy. I think it's interesting. I guess we'll see as it bounces along. I would have loved to have been at the spring conference, though, to see what reactions were of the VMware people there.
I know what is the reaction of the people outside of VMware.
Really? Okay. What is it?
Yeah, we're hiring. That's what every other company is saying right now. Like, we're hiring.
Well, that's funny, though, because in the ones that are hiring, there's also enough people that are firing right now, too. I don't have any news on that, but there's measurable layoffs happening, which isn't surprising.
No money. No money floating around. No money.
No. And people weren't as conservative during the last 2 years. And now
You cannot be conservative. Because if you found it by VC money, you need to spend that money so that you can get another round of financing. You need to grow your business super fast. So if you're conservative, you don't meet the numbers for the next round of financing.
I know. But that's what you fall into, though. If you're always running your tank to empty and just getting to the next gas station, that doesn't help you. But I understand. Jivan, good to see you as well. So this is funny. Everyone is hiring. Board at KubeCon was totally full. That might be true in Europe. There's some softening starting to happen.
So I don't know whether it's softening in US, but what I can tell you is when you enter KubeCon, there are, how do you call those? You know, when you get the what you hang here with your name and stuff like
Lanyard.
that?
Lanyard.
And then
Yeah.
you can attach lanyards, right?
Yeah.
Different types of lanyards, right? Every single day, the lanyard that disappeared first is we're hiring.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, that's the one that disappears immediately. Kind of, people might be putting this or that, you know, everybody has 3 or 4 or 5, but the one that absolutely every single person had is we're hiring.
I'll go with Jivan on this. It seems like startups are firing, but not enterprises. That's because they got money. And they're not still chasing seed.
Yeah, enterprises can go through crisis. They can survive crisis. And for startups, it's difficult because you depend on the next round of financing.
Yeah. Europe's behind. I guess we'll see this soon, too. Yeah, yeah. This is funny, too, from Gregor's. Ribbons were refilled regularly. DevOps Freak, looking for a DevOps internship. I I don't know of any. Go look for enterprises, but
So
it's just
internships, in generally speaking, I think that one looking for internship should be looking at enterprises, because
Yeah.
enterprises have space for all levels of knowledge and experience, right? In startups, it's a bit more difficult, right? You're 20 people. It's very hard to have interns. It's complicated. But in bigger companies, yeah, I would go for VMware, Microsoft, companies that size.
If you didn't listen to this week's podcast, go listen to that, because we cover the basis of those items. So, okay. So Broadcom, VMware, Michael, I'm coming for you in Austin. We'll eat some barbecue. I don't know Michael. Trust me. I'm not that level at all. But from Broadcom and VMware, you just said one word, Microsoft. Microsoft had their conference this week, and they announced DevBox. Did you see this?
No? What is it?
Oh, okay. It is a new cloud service that provides developers with secure, ready-to-code developer workstations for hybrid teams of any size. Does that sound familiar to you at all?
Wait, is this code spaces or is this something else? I don't get it now.
It's not code spaces,
Okay.
but I imagine it's...
But description fits
But-
code spaces, ready to code developer workstations. That's code spaces, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But remember,
confused.
code spaces is just the editor, right?
Wait, it's a VM with the container running there, with the tools you
Right.
need and stuff like that. Actually, code spaces works with your local VS Code as well. It is first and foremost a
Correct.
VM.
Correct. But here's where DevBox's unified management, security, compliance, all this stuff. So basically, this is a step beyond what CodeSpaces is. Right. So this is more enterprisey, and it's in preview right now. But this isn't the most interesting part, even though this was announced this week. So this is targeted, at, in my opinion, at enterprises, standardizing a developer desktop. Right. And this
Now I see. It's Windows. There's the keyword. Windows. Okay. Now I get it.
Yeah, that runs on Windows. So if you're not using Windows, then you don't have to worry about it. But it's in the cloud. So again, all cloud-based. So it's basically, I use AWS Workspaces for a machine.
Yeah.
So but this is built specifically for, it's a purpose-built, wait, what is Azure's? Azure has a desktop, or a remote desktop too. What was that called? Do you remember?
Teams? No,
No.
I forgot. Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
This is what Jivan's saying. I hope it's better than Workspaces. Based on what this says, I think it is, because it's purpose-built to do developer things. And I've been thinking about this recently, just around other issues of, in enterprises, in large companies, sometimes there's, especially from a vendor perspective, there's a belief that people within enterprises can do anything they want to with their local machine. And that's just not true, right? You're usually handed, here's your desktop, here's your laptop, it's locked down, you can't install anything on it, you can't even plug in a USB drive.
You will hate your laptop. That's the message.
Correct. You will hate your laptop because you can't do anything on it except what we have set you up to do. And usually that standard bake is not great for development purposes, but this feels like it has potential. Has
I
potential.
mean, I'm guessing that this might be used for same purposes, kind of like, hey, we want you to have a locked development environment within our own network and what's or not. Sounds actually like a advanced version of locked laptop,
Yeah.
and probably not kind of like what I was talking before, code spacey, which would give you a server. This gives you probably. You literally work in it, right? Not on your laptop connected to some server for compute, something.
Right. Yeah, you're not. Well, it's like AWS Workspaces in that respect, to
Yeah.
where it's there, but it's just in the cloud, and it's just like RDPing in, but it's not. It's much more than RDP.
Yeah.
Let's use the right thing. So anyway, but this came this week, but I think it's based on this other thing. The Dev Container CLI. Did you see this? This was last
No.
week. Okay, so you were asleep then too. This is like now and free, right? This is there. A consistent environment anywhere with a Dev Container CLI. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so Dev Container, inner loop needs, outer loop needs, and then production. So Dev Containers have been supported in Visual Studio Code since the announcement of Remote Containers extension in 2019, and more recently Code Spaces. This is what you were talking about. This is backed by Dev Container JSON. So what the CLI is just Microsoft. Come on, you got enough Go people there. Please don't write stuff in Node. npm install the CLI, and then you can say Dev Container up, build, run user command, whatever. Right? It's all the stuff about Dev Container.
So is this Microsoft now becoming AWS? I'm getting confused, really. Kind of, because with code spaces, among other things, I can do GH, GitHub CLI, create code spaces, or code spaces create, or something like that is the command, right? One of the options to create code spaces. And when you create code spaces, you depend on the file that you had on the screen. I forgot now already what is it, that JSON over there. If you
The
go up.
Dev Container JSON, yeah.
Dev container JSON, yeah.
Yeah.
So and this one also uses dev container JSON like code spaces, and it can do something from CLI like code spaces, but it is not code spaces, even though it is code spaces, or it uses some things of the code spaces.
Does that
and
have
then
anything
the
to do with
previous
code
news-
space? Sorry.
Huh?
Does that have anything to do with
Say-
code spaces?
I don't know. That's
No,
that's
you,
kind
you
of
were just repeating it. That's why I was just jumping
Okay,
on
yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's fine.
so. This is now three tools, two tools you mentioned in the news plus code spaces that serve very similar purpose, right?
Yep.
I mean, I know that there are variations, just like each AWS service has variations, but still, we have 17 AWS services to do similar things, and this sounds similar.
This is the same
Maybe I'm
question I
wrong.
had about something else that was announced this week. It's like, I understand why Node, but come on, why Node? Yeah. So anyway, that was released as a CLI. Again, it was part of an extension that you could get through VS Code. But now there's a CLI. I don't know. I've thought about some ideas from a CI perspective, but I haven't gotten there fully yet. So anyway, Dev Container CLI. One more thing about Microsoft. Do you have an Xbox?
Okay. I don't.
Okay, I don't either. I don't game, so. But
I
I
do
saw
game,
this.
but I don't have Xbox, and now
So this came
are you
out a
trying
couple.
to convince me to buy it.
Well, I don't know. You might want to after reading this. So this came out a couple of weeks ago. More than 2 weeks ago. So there was a talk at KubeCon that you missed. That we'll probably need to try to find. So the Xbox Cloud Gaming Infrastructure. 26 plus Kubernetes clusters across several Azure regions. I wonder why they're running on Azure. Oh, never mind. Each with 50 plus microservices and 700 to 1,000 pods for a total of 22,000 pods secured with Linkerd. This is all about Linkerd.
Nice.
So if you've ever played a game on xbox.com/play like Fortnite, available to now stream in your browser for free, little ad there, you were using Linkerd. So this whole story was around using how they're using Linkerd within Xbox and how they went through the process to land on Linkerd. So that's all the story
Nice.
is. So I would say that if you can see the video on this and you're trying to figure out, do I need a service mesh or not? I would say at 22,000 pods, they're doing it at scale.
Oh yeah.
Was that I just saw that number at the bottom, but was that the number I used at the top? Yeah, 22,000 pods secured.
22,000, yeah.
That is a statistical measurement. Okay. Enough Microsoft.
No more
You're right.
Microsoft?
No more Microsoft today.
Okay.
But we have one of their competitors. And I had to laugh when I saw this. GKE Cost Estimator built right into the Cloud Console. You have railed on the big three of you just don't know how much you're going to be spending.
You can never know.
You can never know. Well, now in theory, you have a cost estimator to figure out how much GKE is going to cost you.
I bet that this does not include everything.
Well, one thing, again, not knowing what don't you see here?
Ingress, outgress?
Yep. It looks like they've got the volume. So PVC should be covered.
ELBs?
Nope. I see the control plane.
Uh-huh.
I see a pool. But it's all the other stuff that ends up biting you in the butt.
Exactly.
Because this I could have done myself. This isn't the hard math.
That's the easiest part because kind of like, that's the compute. Compute is easiest to calculate, right? Because it's charged by CPU and memory. That's why I mentioned ingress, egress, right? That is hard to compute because prices are obfuscated and you don't know in advance how much you're going to have, how much traffic you're going to have anyways.
Yep. If you take a look at it here, you can go through and set numbers. And basically, once you start setting your values, it appears it's reflected over in the calculator, which is nice, right? That's nice. I'm not having to re-enter it.
That's nice, definitely.
Yeah, I'll give them that. But it's all the...
But it's also misleading. So actually, I'm not sure whether it's nice, right? Because is
helpful.
It better to...
It's helpful.
I don't know whether it's helpful because, is it better for you not to know or that you think you know the price and it turns out to be something else?
Well...
Kind of, what is better, not knowing or false expectations?
So they're covering themselves by this phrasing that's at least at a reasonable size font. Exact cost is contingent upon actual resource use and, here it is, other factors that can't be accurately estimated before a cluster is created. Look, if you're doing your cluster right, the cluster is never a fixed size anyway, if you're in the cloud, right? On-prem, different story. But if you're in the cloud and you're setting up a fixed size cluster, why? I mean, I understand why, but why? Anyway, they've got an estimator now. So
nice.
That
better
part
than not.
Better than nothing at all. Okay. Another small acquisition, if you will. I don't know if it was technically an acquisition or not. So Tilt is now part of Docker.
Go Tilt.
I did. Didn't help any. We talked about, we did a recording this week and we talked about this as part of one of the things we talked about. I'm 50-50 on this. I don't really understand why.
What's the chance that Tilt, what's the company? Tilt is a company itself, right?
Yes.
What is the chance that Tilt is going to make business?
Low.
I mean, Tilt is a project I love. I think it's absolutely amazing stuff, right? But very small chance of recurring business. So from Tilt perspective, joining forces with Docker makes sense because Docker is present in enterprises.
Mm-hmm.
Whether sufficiently or not, that's a different question, right? So Docker has doors open for business. Let's say maybe not business itself. Tilt has no business. But Tilt has an amazing project. Tilt has a project that is potentially more important than what Docker itself has. I mean, you want developer experience. Tilt gives developer experience, at least for the part of it. It does it really, really well.
I cried when I saw this. Maybe you'll see Tilt and Kubernetes features in Docker Compose.
Yeah. Makes me want to cry. But depends how they execute. I mean, Docker has penetration, has user adoption. Tilt has amazing features. If it turns out that actually Tilt moves Docker closer to Kubernetes, it could be a good thing.
Yeah. So this sentence both makes me cry and is hopeful all at the same time. Because could it turn Docker Compose into something a little more useful? It's useful as it is, but could it become more useful? So anyway, joining Docker. We're going from the bigs now to the super small. Oh, by the way, so we recorded one this week. It's coming out. When is it coming out? I don't remember. In a few weeks. I don't remember exactly when. I think it's towards the end of June. The short of it.
Okay.
The short of it.
If anybody wants a summary of KubeCon, we need to invite somebody to give us the summary. I cannot give you a summary. I've been physically present in KubeCon. I haven't been to any talk, so I don't know. I can give a very good summary of what was happening on the
show floor,
on the floor in corridors.
What
I can also
happened?
tell you who got drunk first at KubeCon parties. I can give you many information about KubeCon, but not really anything about sessions.
And that was what that episode goes like, which will be out in a few weeks. By the way, before we get off Tilt here, Ingen says, Tilt is awesome. Recently introduced it to some of the teams I work for. Sweet. That's very cool. Anyway, next one was DigitalOcean Functions. I guess it's something that they needed, right? Just to fill out the portfolio.
It's a paradox, right? It's
and this is because it's because of the Nimbella acquisition, right? So this was Roderick and all that crew from Nimbella going into DigitalOcean.
So what makes DigitalOcean special? That it's very different from AWS. It's similar. And then DigitalOcean is doing its best to be as much like AWS as possible. So that's tricky. But I understand, kind of, you cannot not have services because people say, hey, I want I like DigitalOcean, I want this, I want that. So it's normal to fulfill customer requests, but then you're running a danger of kind of like what distinguishes you from others.
Correct. So anyway, that was announced GA this week. I'm going to let that sit. A couple of tools that were... There weren't a lot of tools. I guess everybody was at KubeCon. Turtle. I'm calling it Turtle. Does that seem like Turtle to you?
Now that you said it, yeah, Turtle.
I don't know if that's
I
true
cannot make a video because it would be impossible for me now to call it anything else.
So,
I mean, imagine if you remove L from that.
TRD. Yeah, that's what it is.
Third, yeah.
Okay. Short for True Delivery. That's what it's for. So it's for secure and continuous software delivery. So here's what's interesting. It wraps three things: Git, Vault, and a Tuf-based repository. Had you ever heard of Tuf before?
No, I heard about it, but I never used it. I don't know 100%.
I mean, it graduated in 2019, so it's 3 years old.
Okay.
Right? So it's like...
Now I feel embarrassed.
A framework for securing Software update systems. So basically, here's the picture. So there's a client on a device. Sound familiar? Puppet, Chef?
Yeah.
So you do Git. There's a CI system that triggers the trdl server. Sound familiar? Puppet, Chef? To a tough repository. A little different. And a client. So it's based on channels instead of versions. So machines are tracking a channel. Think stable, experimental, whatever it is.
So is that arrow then correct? Is it really going, or trdl client is
client.
pulling from the repo probably, right?
It's pulling from the repository, yeah.
Okay.
So to me, this is my phrasing, not theirs. This is for those of us that don't believe Kubernetes is a thing, that it doesn't exist. We still have our heads in the sand. This is the way to do the things that all the cool Kubernetes kids are doing. Because if you look at it, here's a tag, gets into Vault, which is part of the trdl server. Docker's running there. Whether it's really Docker or just containerd, I don't know. It's just an image at this point, which turns into an artifact. The artifact is now in the object storage, which is the tough repository, thinking about that line that we saw coming down, which is now available for the release channel, and then the clients, whether it's a VM, whether it's a user, it's just waiting for those things to be published out. So this is basically, and this is the question that was asked up here, why have our own package manager? This replaces Yum, apt, Homebrew, Chocolatey.
I can't.
But this, to me,
understand what's going on here.
This is Puppet and Chef.
Yeah.
This is Puppet and Chef to me. I don't understand why.
I mean, the major difference I see is that you have a client on every VM, and Puppet and Chef had a central server that was pooling stuff, right? I know it had also agents
clients
in every node as well. Yeah, true.
On the nodes. So every one of these are just the nodes. So anyway, it's how they deliver WRF. So this is from Flaunt. People there, even though we've been poking, I still don't know how to say their name. Do you know how to say it?
Flaunt.
Okay. Whatever he just said. This is how they've delivered WRF, which is their CI/CD tool. I don't get it. It's just a today's world of Puppet, which, by the way, the Puppet deal closed last week.
What does the company behind Flaunt do?
They do this.
Is it some kind of consulting?
No, they have a product. Here.
It's a product, not consulting.
Yeah, they have a product. An all-in-one service, 24/7 maintenance and developer systems.
Consulting.
Well, no. So here's their products. They do have services, managed Kubernetes and DevOps as a service. Part of the DevOps service is Deckhouse, WRF, and OKmeter. We've talked about Deckhouse before.
Yeah.
And we talked about WRF before.
Yeah.
So that's who that is. I agree with you. What problem is this trying to solve? You must be in management. Sorry.
I'm guessing kind of, to me this smells like we're solving legacy problem, which is completely legit thing to do.
Yeah. In a open source fashion. I just don't like clients running. I don't. I understand the purpose that makes things magical, but no, this is funny. Yeah, you evaluate a lot of products. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what it is. I guess part of it is, so this is one of the things that, and this is me not remembering Puppet or Chef that well, the flow is there's signatures, and then it's validating and does the things, and you have that. What I don't see here is SBOM. I'm sure they'll be rolling in some sort of SBOM and that kind of buzzword into this at some point. I don't know. It's interesting, but it's interesting in a isn't that sweet kind of way.
No, it's interesting as if it's a puzzle, kind of. Now, if you solve the puzzle, and puzzle is figure out why this exists and what it does, then you get the prize.
Yeah, we have Azure DevOps, which has 50,000 features. Yeah. If I have to pitch Turtle, I'm going to ask. Yeah, I just saw this pop up this week, and you know me, I don't have time to touch anything, and Victor doesn't start looking at the things that are in this until afterwards. So,
Exactly.
I don't know. So anyway, that's Turtle. If nothing else, it's Turtle, and that's one of the better names that I've seen recently. True Delivery, no, it's Turtle. And actually, that would be a great logo if you had a turtle there, because for True Delivery, you don't want. Okay. All right, here. I'm going to put this full. You want your delivery to be as fast as possible. I'm thinking turtle and hare for a moment. But the hare does whatever the hare does, the rabbit. But the turtle, you know he's just going to get there. It's just going to happen. It's just there.
I still think that it should have been called TRD. It still states that it can still be explained as true delivery.
I know.
There was no need for L.
For L. Okay. Anyway. AppBuilder. Now, this was the tool that I saw this week, which I thought was really interesting. And it's for operations people or people doing operations. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to read it all, but I'm going to call out a couple things. So operations teams tend to use a large selection of shell scripts, piped commands, kubectl invocations, and stuff, right? We're in the command line doing these magical things, or we create aliases or functions in the shell, and just so we can make things simple. But those aliases and functions within your shell are not necessarily portable to everybody else.
True.
Right? I mean, you can make it a dot file and share the dot file, but really, come on. Who wants to share their dot files? Right?
Yeah.
I might name something the same. I might have a name for something that does this on mine, but same name on your machine does something else. So what does this do? As it said here, blah, 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 tribal knowledge. This does not scale well, does not stay up to date. Thumbs up. What if there was a CLI tool that encapsulated all of these commands in a single easy to use and easy to discover command? This is what AppBuilder does for you. You specify a model for your CLI in a YAML file. Okay, don't get out of shape here yet. And then build a custom interface on the fly. So check this out. Now, it's going to be two versions. There's going to be standalone, and there's also going to be a library to where it can do other things. There is a video. We're not going to watch that. So here's what it does. So this tool, AppBuilder, created Nats CTL, or Nats Cuddle. I'm going to go with Cuddle. This isn't a real thing. This was defined. And now I've added in all of this stuff. So if you were to write a CLI, if you're using Go, you're going to use Cobra. If you're using Java, you're probably going to be using Pico CLI, those kinds of things. But that's not what you're having to do here. So you write these commands. So report servers, report Jetstream, whatever it is, right? But in reality, what's happening is Nats Cuddle report servers maps to Nats, not Nats CTL, but Nats server list user system password blah 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 blah. It's making your aliases in a way that you can actually, it looks like a real program, but in reality it's not.
Nice. Assuming so, my question is, and I probably don't know. I don't know how deep you went into this, but
Yeah.
does it actually package all those random scripts and binaries that you're using? I understand it wraps around them. That's great, right?
Yeah.
Does it package them as well?
That's
Because
what I
one
don't
of the
know.
big questions is kind of like, okay, so yes, I as SRE, I'm using 57,000 scripts and binaries and God knows what. Let's wrap it up into something that everybody can use. Brilliant.
Yep. So let's look at the quick start, right? Because this will there's a hello world. Gee, go figure. So you can do a brew tap in AppBuilder. I don't remember here. Hang on a second. I did look at this, but now I'm forgetting. AppBuilder. Yeah, it's covered pretty much on pretty much any platform. I mean, ARM,
Nice.
everything. Okay, so that's why I couldn't remember. Okay, so anyway, we do the installation. Oh, they publish OS X and Linux homebrew packages, but you can go get the other things, so that's fine. All right, so we're going to make a little command that invokes calsay. So that means you have to have calsay on your machine. So you'd have to have, in our previous example, you'd have to have nats on your machine. Or thinking differently, you need kubectl on your machine. So you need the base, whatever the binary is, that you would typically manually call anyway with all the command parameters. Then we define a YAML. So we want to be able, this is what we want to be able to say. We want to say demo say hello world, demo think hello world. So here's the YAML. Again, I'm crying, but it's what it is. And you define commands. Command is say, you give it a description, what the exec is, and then what is the command. And then the arguments you want to pass to it. So now you get this nice, as if you're using a native CLI without having to create a native CLI.
It's kind of like YAML way to define aliases, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then you have the YAML. Now here's the question that I don't know is, where is my, how do I make it to where people can just, I've defined the YAML.
There must be a way to compile that into some binary that you can distribute, right?
I would have to say so, but I don't, I'm trying to find runtime settings. Let's see. AppBuilder list.
You'll never know.
My guess is, basically just looking here, there's probably...
I mean, that YAML, so, okay, actually, there is no point building anything when you think about it.
No, you have the YAML.
It's
you
not
just need to
packaging
clone
anything.
Yeah, you just need to keep this
YAML.
location up to date. Right?
Exactly.
That's what I'm thinking. So everything gets... Let's see if there's a better example here. I was in GitHub anyway. Let's see. Do they have... They don't have an examples folder here. There is a video that talks about it. But how are they licensed? They are Apache 2. Okay.
You know, I applaud the idea. I think that idea is really great. But my main problem is really how do I distribute my knowledge to others? I mean, my scripts, whatever I'm doing to others.
Yeah.
And if others need to first follow the instructions how to install 57 different CLIs and download 1,000 different scripts, and after they do that, they can use this, then I would really like binary who would actually compile everything based on some YAML or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
say, now, this binary has everything. That would be absolutely awesome.
Even if the binary is huge, you'd be okay with that.
I would be okay with. I mean, that's better than if I mean, I would end up with the same size, just split into 57,000 different tools that I'm using, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to see. Yeah, it doesn't. The one thing I haven't seen here, like what you're saying, there isn't a clear answer of how I'm still here. I'm just trying to figure out how would you distribute it, and how do you say, like in this example here, how do I have it make sure that calsay is already installed, or it tells you, hey, you need to go install calsay or calthink, or better yet, it just does it for you if it's not there, if it can, right? It attempts, and if it fails for whatever reason. This looks pretty simple to at least try out.
Yeah.
right? And I think, as Ingen says here, it sounds interesting. I'm just trying to figure out what are all the pieces I have to do? And this would be, how complex can it get? I think, based on what I saw here all it's doing is running the commands under the hood. So in theory, you should be able to pipe and do normal things.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? When you get to piping and stuff, you're probably wrapping those pipes into scripts, and then we're getting to the problem I explained before.
Maybe,
right?
yeah. Okay. Anyway, I think it's cool.
Worth a try.
I think it's worth a try, and just figure out, okay, what are the things? Like, I've got enough aliases. I've created enough aliases on my machine that are long, or they're not even aliases, they're functions, to do certain things. And this might make it a little more portable. Not portable, but manageable. Okay. That is AppBuilder from Korea. I'm going to call it Korea. These names. And your video this week about teleport.
It's awesome. And then
Why do you say that?
Parties at KubeCon. You take it in any order you want.
So they had good.
Goes awesome, and parties are great. Together with Aqua, so I cannot give them 100% of the credit for their party. It's shared with Aqua, but great party and an amazing tool. And to my knowledge, and I haven't, I'm probably missing a lot. Not many tools are actually there on the market, prominent tools that do that type of. I have impression that if I knew more single sign-on authentication, authorization type of tools like 10 years ago than today. I might be wrong. There was Atlassian, something I used, I remember. Like
Oh, you're talking about
15
Crowd?
years. Yeah, is it Atlassian Crowd? Yeah, exactly. I don't know whether that's still a thing.
I don't think so.
Not a thing.
I don't remember. I don't think it is. I thought that was one of the things I got rid of. What was oh yeah, HipChat. Remember HipChat from?
No, I don't want to remember it. No.
I'm looking here as we're, yeah. So Crowd's still a thing. Okay, it is. It's still alive. Anyway, we're getting close to the top of the hour. So teleport, thumbs up, open source and commercial.
Yeah.
Right. You can use it for
Open
lots of
source,
different
commercial,
things.
Self-managed, all
Everything.
combinations.
All the things. Well, that's good. So as Sebastian says here, teleport looks at, you can even record RDP sessions. Yeah, it's a full service thing.
Yeah, I mean that's an enterprise feature, which is to be expected, kind of like that.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
So what's going on this week? You've got your home. Wait, what is today? Friday. Today's Friday.
Friday, yes.
I said I was going to talk about the open source project I was doing.
Yeah,
I'll talk more about it later. I'll talk more about it next week.
Okay.
The teaser is, if you're interested in nerdy audio visual stuff, like production, like what we're doing now, then it's for you. In fact, what I'm doing might actually be for you. Now I'm thinking about it.
Like kind of you as in
Like no,
people
you,
of the world, or
no,
you like me?
Victor. Yeah, you, Victor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I hadn't really thought about this use case, but I could use it as well. Okay, somebody posted something. It's like, hey, does this feature exist? And I was like, it doesn't sound that hard. And unfortunately, as much as we're bashing on Node, the only way you can write modules for this thing is in Node. I mean, you could use TypeScript, but it's still all JavaScript based. It's just painful, but it's what it is. Because it's an Electron app at the end of the day. I didn't think I'd ever be working on an Electron app, but I am. Just a little module. But anyway, I'll probably have it done next week. I've got it prototyped, but I want to try to explode it a little bit more. One thing I want to ask, I have thought about, because I usually edit on the weekends, edit the podcast on the weekends. Also do all the stuff for this on the weekends. I've thought about live streaming me editing a podcast. Would anybody be interested in seeing that happen? I mean, you don't have to be there live, but you can hear all of the mutterings. I'm saying, Victor, stop vaping. Victor, stop vaping. And how I go through that process.
It's not interesting, mostly because you don't curse. And then anything longer than 20 minutes without cursing is not interesting.
Yeah. So,
you need to start cursing during our recordings, and then you can remove it during the edit.
So Kieran says yes. Ingen says if I rant. Now, I can rant. That's something I don't do because I guess I just use my inside voice all the time. But I could. I've just got to set it up and see if I can have you hear what I'm hearing while I'm editing, but yet still hear me through a mic, and my mic doesn't affect the record. I haven't tested it out yet, but it's something I've been thinking about. Again, not really technical, but some people have asked how do we do some of the things that we do, and that would be one of the things that. And the other thing too, I will say, this channel, we are about 120 hours away from being able to turn on monetization, which means you get to see ads on everything. We'll probably turn on monetization. Obviously, it won't happen here, but while we're live. But we're close. We're really close. I see. The thing is, unfiltered. Well, okay, I can do unfiltered. It doesn't mean I have to be rude. Well, I might end up being rude.
Does this mean that you're going to remove filter from me as well?
No. Not for the podcast. Preferably not for this channel. Your channel, you do what you want. I don't really care. But see, the reason why we filter ourselves, at least from a language perspective, is we want to be able to have, if we actually said something smart, we want you to be able to hand it to your boss without saying, okay, not safe for work. That's what we're trying to stay away from, right? That's all I'm trying to do. Okay. I didn't think we'd make it to the top of the hour, but we did, and you probably have a meeting in 3 minutes, right?
I don't know. Maybe.
You haven't had time to look at your calendar yet today. By the way, in the U.S., it is a holiday weekend, so most people will be off Monday, but I won't be. So it's just life. Because I'll be probably writing some open source and still getting day job stuff done. Why?
Editing so that you can go to vacation. That's what you need to do.
I'm really trying to get to a point so I have a week in. The other part, how can I say this without being completely weird? I have some medical procedures to have done in July. Nothing bad, like it's just outpatient type stuff. But I have to fast for a couple of days before. I won't be a very happy person. In fact, that Friday, we probably won't do a live stream because I will have been fasting for a day already. I'm not. What was the Hulk thing? You wouldn't like me when I'm angry?
Yeah.
You wouldn't like me when I'm hangry. Like me, hungry, and it's a bad thing. So anyway, there might be a day off in July too, just because old guy things. We'll put it that way. All right. So everybody have a good weekend. Before you leave, if you're with us live, go ahead and like, subscribe, do all the YouTube-y things. And Monday is your video. Do you want to say what it is?
I don't know.
Okay, good.
I don't know.
Wednesday,
something is shipped for editing, and the editor did not come back to me, and I already forgot what it is.
Okay, good. So Wednesday podcast. Do we have a AMA on Thursday over on DevOps Toolkit?
No, not again. I will be traveling again.
We're traveling again next week, so we're missing another one.
Yeah.
It gives me some time to get some other things done. And really, we should have done something. And then, wait, if you're traveling next Thursday, are you home Friday? Are we going to do this next Friday, or are we off?
I don't know. Let me see. I'll tell you right away.
Because we haven't talked about that.
Friday.
I don't know what day it is.
I need to check. So I'm officially traveling back on Saturday, but I don't know what's happening on Friday. So
okay.
Maybe.
So next week we may not have next week here live again, just because of Victor's travel. Look, this travel thing's getting in the way of the important things.
Yeah, we should just remove humans first, and then if you remove humans from existence, then there will be no traveling because there will be no purpose to travel to meet other humans that do not exist. And we will be able to have this podcast every single weekend without any guests, so nobody would even complain. It's a plan, no?
Okay. Anyway. Yeah, and this, don't forget to sleep. Yeah, this time you need to sleep. Of course, where you're going, this isn't a KubeCon level size.
Close to. I mean, it's my favorite, no doubt.
Was this craft? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So anyway, thanks to everybody. We may or may not see you next week. So next week, I will remember, if it doesn't happen, I will go ahead and do, instead of on Thursdays where I say, here's the schedule, next Thursday, if we're not, whether we do it or not do it, I will still post either we're doing it or not doing it. So that way you're aware. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend. And we'll see you when we see you next. Maybe next week. Maybe the week after. We don't know.
I'll check it out and
okay. It doesn't matter.
Get back to you.
It's fine. They like us anyway, I hope. All right.
I don't think so.